That's gonna go.
We don't stop. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, today not only do we have my wonderful co-host with me, Agnes Amisano of Tax Resolutions and Bookkeeping, but we also have a special guest, Erin Delfino, who is here. Hey, by the way, do you have a 90-year-old aunt or relative who lives in Amityville, who works in Amityville? Do you know a Delfino?
No, my mother-in-law is 90,
Yeah,
but she
yeah.
lives in Lindenhurst.
Now you're in trouble.
But
You're
does she work?
correct.
But does she work in Amityville?
No,
No. Okay,
no.
because listen, and she's 90.
She just turned 90.
I'm going to find her. I'm telling you, there was an article today I was looking at. It was so great. All right, so as it turns out, Agnes and Erin are both in the same grief group, right? Agnes,
Bereavement group.
you know,
We are being trained as facilitators.
yes, exactly, and in order to help people who are getting over a loss, okay? And that's what we're going to be talking about today in today's show. It is going to be about getting over loss, but also an amazing way that Erin seems to put she relates it to you in her blog, okay? So in just a second. Live from Long Island, New York, I'm Ryan O'Neill Williams, and my co-host, Agnes.
I'm like, you always introduce me, so I'm just sitting here.
You're right. I usually just run with it. And our special guest today is Erin Delfino from Griefful. I actually like the name too. I didn't know that was a word. I thought it was one thing and then the other thing, but it turns out that it's a complete thing. So why don't you ladies tell me a little bit, or tell everybody a little bit about your bereavement group. Your bereavement group.
Sure.
Why don't you tell us about
that? Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Sure.
Yes, excellent.
Yep. So me and Agnes met a few months back. We volunteer working with our local church.
It's a year now.
A year.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's
Went
amazing.
that fast. Yeah, and so we volunteered to become facilitators, leading a bereavement group, helping people, who unfortunately are going through the process of grieving, and giving them tools and resources to walk through that grief.
So it's from St. Mary's Church in Islip. So this is all volunteering process. And so far we observe a couple of groups. Each group, last time we had 3 groups running simultaneously, and there's a lot of people coming to those groups. There's a lot of people out there, and a lot of people that they need new tools to go on with what we call new normal, because life will never be.
It is going to be different, right? You have lost someone who is very, very close to you. So who came up with the idea of these groups? I mean, obviously people need them, but who put that all together?
Do I think this?
I believe it was kind of just started within the church itself. They were finding that quite a number of people needed some resources, so they formed this kind of group, and then they asked for volunteers to help run the meetings.
In that particular parish, there is a core group, with a group of ladies that actually one of them, she lost someone very close to her, and she started that, and was picked up, and they work in that particular parish, and there are groups like that in every single parish, but particularly we must say that St. Mary's is one of the best. So we are having pleasure being trained by the best that they are in a bereavement group, and that's how that took life upon itself, because a lot of people need help when you are left without someone that was so dear dear to you. So you have to learn how to co-op with that person physically not being there, but with the love that you have for them, how to go on.
Yeah, I would assume that it would be very difficult. Erin, I understand from reading your blog, I understand that part of the reason why you are in the group is because you also lost someone very, very close to you. You want to tell us a little about that?
Sure. So, unexpectedly, I lost my husband 2 years ago, very suddenly. And like most people, my life was just like, okay, the life that I thought I had or knew, now what do I do? Where do I go? So, I went through bereavement groups and I found it very helpful, gave me some good resources and good people that I could meet and just share my story and somebody to relate to. So I didn't feel so alone. The blog came about because they encourage journaling, which is just writing out some of your emotions, writing out your feelings. And I felt like I had this energy to share some of my thoughts into a blog. And the encouragement of friends and family, they said, yeah, you should share this on a blog setting. My very first time blogging, by the way. So not too technical maybe with the spelling or correct English maybe, but I feel like it's just a raw cut of my feelings and my analogies as we kind of were talking about
I
earlier.
gotta tell you, that is what I love the most. I mean, from tacos to plane trips, it's definitely check it out, ladies and gents. And that's why I'm putting up the URL for you to go and see it, because there are some things in there that, I mean, hit home. I personally lost my mother in the last 5-6 years. Actually, as of this February, I think it was 7 years. And so that was one of the things that really, I was close with her, and close to the end there, it was cancer. So it was a little bit difficult. And I have to tell you, there are definitely some analogies that you had in there about, leaving some of the grief behind, leaving some of the baggage behind, for example. You want to explain how you came up with those, or is it just like you sit and think and marinate?
It's a little bit of both. Sometimes it marinates and sometimes it's just off the cuff. And I do it because it's easy for me to relate something physical or something tangible that relates to grief. A lot of times I felt I could read books and they kind of were, abstract and they were like so technical, that I started relating my grief journey to things along that happen every day or every week. And I pick one item and I kind of focus on that and build around that. And I like to, so that when next time you're having tacos, you maybe take that moment and say, wait, wow, I didn't realize that. And, maybe correlated with that.
My favorite was about the Thanksgiving mashed potatoes.
There
Yeah.
was
Tell me about that. Tell me about that, Agnes. Why do you like this Thanksgiving mashed potatoes?
No, it was all about, it's a bigger picture than that. You're remembering things that they were close or that person liked, and how you co-op for the holidays, and being faced with the whole family, and how can you hold on to those little things that actually you can, it can be your own. Like, you have to remember another thing. Like, Erin went through such a horrible loss, very personal. Not, for example, Thanksgiving. You have other family members. Not everyone was as close to her husband as she was, right?
Mhm.
And they might start throwing at her things that might be hurtful, that might be misguided. Because people are just people, and we
Yeah.
know from our groups that people will come up and say, for lack of better words, stupid things. Oh, with time it's going to get better. Oh, you're going to find somebody else, and things like that. How insensitive they are. I'm guilty of it myself. When I was younger, I said the same thing because I thought that that was the right thing to say.
You think
Until
it's just because we don't know what to say, we just say these things? Like, I think that's part of it, right? We just, everybody says it, so you go and say it too. And it's just like, especially when you're hearing it and it happened to you, you're just like, what are you telling me?
Exactly.
It's a platitude that just seems like it doesn't really help you for any reason at all. But yeah, so you were guilty of it too, huh?
Absolutely. I was younger and stupid, and I didn't understand everything until I was hit with the loss.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
Until you're in the situation, you might not you don't realize it fully, and sometimes it's all we know. We react differently.
Yeah.
I mean, we could probably do a whole nother session on the stuff that people say that they shouldn't say, when
yeah.
Dumb stuff to not say when somebody's lost something.
I think that would be helpful.
We've all had those experiences, I think.
Yeah.
Somebody say something that
I have to tell you, it's not the same as losing a husband to, your husband passed away. But I've recently gone through a separation and an upcoming divorce. And I have to tell you, a lot of people came to me with advice that was the worst possible advice. And I was just like, why are you saying these things? Yeah, man, you should go out and be with as many women as possible. And I was like, what? How is that going to make me feel any better? It's going to make me feel dirty and disgusting. And
you're not talking about my advices, right?
No, you gave me great advice. And you gave me great advice, and we are taking that this year. Hush, hush. Not say nobody heard that.
No.
But we're definitely taking that this year. So it is what it is. But yeah, I'm Erin. What? Just give me one. I'm sorry. Just give me one thing that someone said to you when your husband passed away that you were just like, what? Why would you even say that?
I have a good one.
Don't say who it was.
I'm young. I'll find somebody new. Because I am rather young, and don't worry, you have your whole life ahead of you. You'll find somebody else.
Oh,
yeah. That was at the funeral.
Oh,
the funeral. Yeah.
So
wow.
Talking about being insensitive.
Yeah, right away.
They're doing good, and they're not.
Yeah. Coming back to the subject, like during the holidays, different people will say different things. So you're holding on to something that is dear to you. So like your husband loved those mashed potatoes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you're holding on to that as little as it is, but very symbolic thing to hold something dear that is only yours.
Yeah.
Everyone else will be talking about different things, but you can. I think that would help, just holding on to that one little secret thing that is only yours, and everyone else can talk, you can smile, but you hold on to that one dear thing to yourself.
Yeah, just for me, like the tacos.
Like the tacos. Yes.
Listen, you made me hungry. I was reading it. I was like, oh.
You have to get tacos now.
I think I'm having tacos tonight.
Oh, by the way, you're missing on blueberry muffins and brown pecan. So
Erin, she is a notoriously wonderful hostess. When you go and hang out with Agnes, whether it is here at her home or in Pałac Żylichów in Poland, she takes care of you. She makes sure she runs around and makes sure everybody's taken care of. And it still looks kind of effortless, I gotta tell you. When I showed up in Poland that night, she's just wearing this queen thing. Just like, who is this? Who is this?
You look like at least a princess with my age, the queen,
Oh my God, that's exactly what I was like. What is this? Where am I? And who is this person? But the truth is, she takes care of you no matter what. So I'm a little envious because even though I'm 20 minutes away, I would love some of whatever it is that she's. But yeah, So yeah, talking about the food and those are the other things. What other traditions? I mean, are there other traditions that you guys talk about? Food is clearly one that you see people do all the time to combat grief. I mean, if someone passes away after, when you have the respite, like right after, they generally bring in food. In Jamaica, where I'm from, people stay with the family for 9 nights, probably because they're hungry, but also because there's always food every night, and people bring different things, and it's kind of like here. And every night there's a specific time for coffee. There's a specific time for like curried goat, or not curried goat. It's like a goat soup, and it's all a part of the whole process and staying with the family until now I think it's just 1 night, but it used to be 9 nights before you put the person into the ground. So it was a whole thing. So definitely food. What else? What are some of the other things that we use to get over our grief?
Well, every experience is different for each individual. The encouragement is always to spend it again, I think, with family. So it's that almost that you're trying to put the love somewhere, and you're trying to share it, the same love that you had for the person who passed. You're trying to share it with someone else. So I think the key is spending some time with family, and that could even just be a group of friends, because family is who we choose. So for me, it's always been, our families get together, and probably in the Irish background that I'm from, it's usually with drinks involved of some sort. I'll leave it at that. But
Polish culture is based on drinks.
Polish and Jamaicans, I think that is universal. The Italians, Polish, Jamaicans, we all drink. I think the only people who probably don't drink.
It helps
Maybe
with
the
the
Amish.
memories.
yes, not forever.
only maybe the Amish. Yeah, and as soon as I saw your name too, I was like, oh, Erin, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of Jamaicans end up being either I'm part Scottish, and some of them end up being Irish as well, because we had England as our colonizer, in the same way that Ireland actually did, and so we end up having those people with us as well. And so drinking is second. Some Guinness or some rum, either way, that's probably not the most healthy way to get over your grief, but it is definitely something that people do, right?
If you don't mind me interjecting,
please.
one thing about friends that we hear a lot, that
Yes.
With grief, with losing someone close to you, it's almost like with divorce, you also lose some of the friends, which is very hurtful. I would think that because think about it. With the divorce, you lose half of the family and half of the friends.
Yeah.
With the grief, when you lose a loved one, you're losing friends as well. And it will be so nice if people will communicate a little bit more and better. You're losing some of your friends because they don't know what to say to you.
Yes.
They're afraid if they're gonna say stupid thing, or they don't know how to handle, a person. Like, they used to, the person will be all cheerful and everything is sunny. They're not capable of doing it. They don't know how to approach them. And also,
Right.
okay, you were his wife, but he's no longer here, so bye.
Yeah. Sometimes you are an acquaintance to that person, because I remember that. Like, my mother had a lot of friends that she had that I would keep in touch with them if I saw them around her or whatever it was. But if I wasn't hanging out with her, then I probably wasn't going to see them. I don't know where most of those people are at this point. I mean, I have a little book of hers that has all her contacts in them, but I what am I going to do? Reach out to all those people? It's kind of a weird thing. But yes, go ahead. You were saying, Erin.
No, I'm saying they're also, the friends are also adjusting to this new normal, and sometimes they still expect the griever to be the old way, and it's an adaptation on all parts. We have to evolve, and some can't handle it.
Yeah, you can see that too, right? For sure, if I'm grieving for like maybe even a 6 month to 1 year period, Agnes had some people who were grieving because they lost a cousin and could not make it to her event in I'm sorry, it sounds they're coming for you. They're coming for you, Agnes, because you didn't save any of those.
Coming for the brownies.
No, that kind of brownies. Who are you sending here?
But yeah, it's if you're going through a period where you're not really talking to anybody, you're not doing anything, you're not going out to stuff, people might be offended because you're not being the same person that you were. But then also they might feel like, hey, I don't know exactly how to be around that person because I don't know, have they gotten over this thing that has been happening, or is it something they're going to talk about all the time? I got to tell you, there are a few friends who I just don't talk to them about loss anymore. Either one of the losses, because they both happen to be at the same time, right? I don't talk to any of them about it because I feel like I'm boring them with it, or we've spoken about it enough, and yes, now it's time to move on anyway. It's been a certain number of years, but you got to let people do that within their own time. I didn't realize that your loss was so recent, Erin. Did it affect you? How did it affect you? Did it affect you in as far as work is concerned, a home? How did you take it, and how did the group help you get over some of the stuff?
Sure. So first, I think I'm still, and I know I'm still grieving, and I've made progress, but as always, there's not a finish line. So I'm still, have my good days, my bad days. For me, how it impacted me, it was just me and my husband. We had no children of our own. So it was just me and my husband. So literally my half of my life, kind of stopped. But I really shouldn't say that, because I do have life. I just, my life with him got cut short. But fortunately I did have work, and that was a good distraction for me. Not for everybody, but for me, it was a good distraction. My work was very supportive. They didn't rush me back, but I felt like the upbringing I had, my work ethic, I was like, I need the distraction. I need to go back. So that was good, but it also was kind of bad because I was trying to run away from everything, I'll just go back, keep working as everything was normal.
And then you don't have to think about it, right?
What I liked about it was that there was a group of people who got what I was trying to say without saying it. And they respected my space, and they let me just share my emotions without trying to sugarcoat anything or go around how I was truly feeling. So it allowed me to open up. And, I think that's what the bereavement group does. It creates a space where you can freely just express yourself, because sometimes during our grief, we tend to stifle ourselves because we don't know how people are going to react, or will somebody say something, or of that nature. So
there is another thing that I would say, as a society, we have given this conception. There is no time frame that people get over and move on. There's no such thing. People are grieving in their own way. They have a right to do so. It might take a few weeks, few months, few years, might take a lifetime. But one thing for sure, the life that it was before, it never be the same. So the bereavement groups giving tools to move on with the new life, to learn to teach people how to move on to the new life. Never as, don't worry, and in 6 months you'll be like nothing ever happened. Time to heal the wounds. I'm sorry, but that's the it. That doesn't happen. Life doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
We love. It's such a strong feeling, especially when you lose someone. It's what we choose to remember, they're always the best things, the good things, and we're holding on to that. We all know that life is not perfect, but when you hear someone who's grieving, they always the most wonderful person that existed in this world. We choose to remember that way because we choose to remember loving things,
Yeah.
loving memories. When we were loved, what they gave it to us, how we loved, how we expressed that love. So now when we're holding on to those most amazing feelings, most amazing memories, this is the most amazing person that we lost.
Yes. Right.
So it's not
All the other stuff.
right, timeline that I'll get over in 6 months. I'll just get back to dancing again in high heels and like nothing ever happened. The life is never the same. The life will be different. We are
Yeah.
forced because of people that they stay behind. They are forced to stay and come up with this outrageous amount of love that we have in our hands and no one to share with. But that's what the bereavement groups are for, so they can teach you how to deal with that, what to do with all those feelings, and how to move on with the life that we have.
That's excellent. That's great. Feel like I should come to your group.
I think we should have groups for friends of the families.
Yeah, how about that?
Teach them how to deal with people, how to respond, how to help. Because what we hear a lot is,
Yeah.
okay, you want to feel as a good friend, right? I'm going to be a good friend. So, okay, I'm going to take you out to dinner. Let's go have wine and food and great. I'll drop you off at home. Ooh, I did a good deed. But you didn't really help a lot because that person is going back to the empty house, closing the door, and
it's like for a few hours.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you think about it, though, at least you tried, right? It's part of it saying, okay, I did it for a few hours, even though I couldn't do it forever and ever. I feel like that at least is something, and it's just. Yeah, you do have to let people do it in their own time, though, because depending on how they feel, it'll take longer or shorter. When I had both things happen basically at the same time, I was like, oh, which one do I focus on? It was like, so wow. And I felt like it made it take longer, right? Because I couldn't even stop to grieve about this other thing when this other thing was like right in my face. And, someone passes away from cancer. It's not something they did. This other person is like doing something, actively moving away from you. And you're like, what? How do I process this whole thing? So
and with you lost your mom. So in a situation that you were going through, you lost someone that would advise you, give you love and affection and caring, and say, son, everything's going to be okay. Just do what I told you to.
Honestly, it was as if the other person was waiting on her to pass away and just did it right. It was like I think it was less than a month after. It was less than a month. It was like 10 days or something like that. And I was like, what? What's that? Right now? Now's the time. I was just like, what the heck is going on? But yeah, that can make it worse, I'm assuming. But then yes, also if people are not necessarily understanding what it is that you are going through or trying to understand what you're going. I know people who have never lost a person in their family their entire, like anybody close to them. They might have lost a friend, but as you get older, you rack up more losses. And I think there are a lot of younger people, like 30 and under, will say, I don't have anybody who's close to me. All my grandparents are still around. So I think sometimes it's tough. People do not understand and do not know what to do until it actually happens to them. Agnes, why don't you tell us a little more about why you got involved in the group?
Oh gosh. Do you really want to know?
How much time do we have?
So, hold on.
I mean, I'm just thinking, if it takes you a wind up like that, it must be important, actually.
Yes, it was because you know what? I have been struggling with my own feelings. If 5 years ago, I told you I found out about this all about my biological dad, the discovering family, and everything else. He passed at this point 28 years ago. My mom passed 15 years ago. She's going to be 16 years ago. Can you believe this? That when I find everything out, I got angry at both of them. Such an incredible anger. I was literally cursing them out. They both gone for years and over the decades. And I was angry. Everything was raw. It took me close to a month to digest everything, to
Mm.
calm myself down, to start honoring them, their memories again. I still don't feel bad about cursing them out. I'm sorry, but I had to. My feelings were, why I didn't even know. My mom, I knew I was waiting for her for almost over 3 years. Uh, I kind of got along with, preoccupied with my own family and my son and his school and a life and then grandkids and everything. And then finding out all that, finding out how many secrets there were behind my back. So the grieving start all over again after I had to forgive them, after I understood why they did what they did, after understanding the love story, after forgiving myself for cursing them out. It took a lot. It took a lot of energy out of me. So when I noticed this advertising in a church bulletin, I'm thinking like, I think I can help others after all the turmoil I went through myself and
Right.
was able to move on. But grieving is not always grieving for with love. There is a lot of grieving with anger, like I went through afterwards, after years and years after. So there is sometimes it's just to feel forgiveness for people, like first husband passed away, and at that point, we were divorced for over 30 years. I just at that point I truly forgiven for everything. So that's another type of grief. There is also sometimes um, anger or like bitterness or guilt. There's so many feelings, not only love. So at bereavement groups, that's what we are approaching with other
Mhm.
people, and we acknowledging that it's okay to feel this way.
Right. And what do we do with that anger, right? Because if we
Yes.
if we don't deal with the anger, we may push it down, but years later, if we have another loss, they kind of resurfaces, and we're called to deal with it again. Um,
Right.
well, any kind of emotions, but anger is a deep one, and it's anger because we didn't get as much time as we wanted, or you know,
That you
what.
missed something that you weren't able to do. It's so interesting you say that because about 2 years before my mother died, my father passed away, and um, that was a person who I didn't really get to know very well, and I always thought, and I say this to myself now all the time: you think you have time, but you don't, right? So cherish every moment now. It's really a thing that I have decided with my life. I'm going to enjoy every single moment and not worry, not sweat the small stuff. Leave a lot of that stuff alone. Um, Let me ask you something. Do you feel as though being in that group is almost like actively grieving as well? Because not only are you helping other people, but maybe even by doing this, you are learning from each person's experience, because sometimes they're going through something you didn't realize, and then you can relate it to a taco or to a transmit to taking a flight. I'm just saying, sometimes other people's pain is something that you can learn from. What do you think?
It's interesting because I um, this past spring, our last session was my first time actually observing a group, and it was funny because I could see where I was when I first joined. So it's kind of like that correlation. But I think when you give back, like me and Agnes do, we're volunteering. I think that it does heal part of our grief, uh, as well as help them. And I think we're always constantly learning because we don't know, we don't have the set rule on, there's no right and wrong. So I think we're continually learning. And maybe somebody shares how they handled something, or, oh, I didn't realize I had that emotion. Like somebody might share, I have anger, and maybe I didn't know where to place what I was feeling, but then they say it, and I'm like, oh, that's what I'm feeling. That's what I'm doing.
For me, it was helpful even when like during coffee breaks, we mingle and we talk one-on-one and have that 2 minutes even conversation with someone just to come up and say, you know what, I've been there and this is how it worked out for me. So, if that happened for you as well, just with any aspect of life.
Mhm.
So it's good to not only, like Erin said, like we're constantly learning, giving back, but just to know that, you know what, we've been through this, we can help someone,
Mhm.
and that little light of hope, not only for members of the group, but as well for us, that life will go forward with us in it, only if we are willing to grab those tools that now we have in our hands,
Yeah.
and pass it to somebody else. It's a good feeling. It's
And
a good
to show others there is
Yes,
hope, to
exactly.
give them that hope.
Right.
That
Right.
can go on. It's going to be hard, but you'll get through it. We all have. So, be a cheerleader
Yeah.
kind of.
And all those feelings that people feel that sometimes could be embarrassing.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, I mean, way before I started with bereavement group, I had no idea. I wish I could have those tools in my hands back then. But he was fighting for divorce, and they were constantly arguing and bickering, and she was divorcing him, and then he passed. And she felt guilty. They have three beautiful daughters, and she felt guilty about it. And it's been years since he passed, and I know there are certain unresolved feelings are still there with her. So but guess what? This is normal. This is normal. And attending to the group, it will help you with healing yourself in this point, because you don't want anyone to feel with the guilt or shame or embarrassment or anything. And there are different situations. People are arguing, people have affairs, they're dying in different circumstances. Can you imagine feelings like that, to deal with that?
All mixed in together, right? That's the thing. It's I gotta tell you, I thought I was supposed to be grieving and sad, but at the same time I was angry at the same, and you like, how do you put those things together? And later on my therapist explained that many men do not show their sadness or their depression in grief and in crying. In many men, we're more aggressive, and so we get angry and we'll lash out at people instead. And it's a whole different, because you're not supposed to cry, or you're not supposed to show weakness. So instead it gets channeled into the thing that we do the most, which is being aggressively stupid. And so there was a lot of that, like going down to the basement and just being so angry and punching the bags and all of that. And it was all these different things mixed up together. You say to yourself, how do unravel that?
That's
Ladies,
that is a good outlet, because it can look, you saying getting it out on a punching bag, or taking it out another way. It necessarily doesn't have to be with tears necessarily. As long as you're doing, in my blog post a lot, I talk about self-care, and how we take care of ourselves is so important, but we have to do it healthy, because if we're not doing something for ourselves, then it could hurt us, and that be mentally and physically. So for a lot of times, men in particular do have a harder time showing their emotions, so if there is an outlet of you punching a bag or something to get that anger out, is a healthy approach. You're doing something, not hurting anybody else, but you're getting it out. You're getting your frustration out.
I would go away because I didn't want to. I have children, so I didn't want them to see me like that. I didn't want them to feel afraid of me in the house. But there was like, oh my gosh, this is so, and it was all things. It was, yes, I'm sad about my mother, but I was also angry about whatever else was going on. It's just like, how do I deal with all? And I feel like everything gets wrapped up together, and you have to like pull everything else like a really bad tied up string of kite. Look, I'm doing the analogy like you. We're trying to make the thing fly, but you got this giant. You ever flown a kite and there's like a ton load of string that's all good? You're like, how do I make the thing actually go up and do what it's supposed to do? Because I haven't unraveled all the problems. Before we shut that, because it's like we've done this before. I could talk to you for another 45 minutes.
We always do that. Yeah.
What do you guys think are like the best tools besides coming to your group for someone who is going through grief, like to stave off some of the worst things that can happen with depression and or self-harm or whatever? What would you tell someone who's watching this right now, and there are a few people watching right now, if they are in pain from some sort of grief? What would you tell them to stop, to do or not to do?
First and foremost, I guess, I'm hoping that they have somebody, whether it's family, a friend, or something, who calls them after the funeral's over. So many times we're part of a funeral, we're part of a wake service, and everybody shows up, but it's a week after, 2 weeks after, but the phone calls stop, the food stops arriving and such, and just to remember that grief never ends, that it's always ongoing. So check in once in a while, with your friends who may be grieving. And for those who are grieving, I again, I can't stress self-care, and that could be an exercise, could be in a nature walk, could be listening to music, could be just taking a drive, whatever it is that makes you feel good, or get you at least out of the mental health that you're in. Mental health is scary, and it's very real. And there's always an outlet, and to always remember that you are enough and you are validated in your feelings. There is no right or wrong. So however you want, to share your emotion, there is no right or wrong. That's what I would share.
Also, journaling is a very important part. If someone can do that, because as our coaches were telling us, that it's good to, you're writing something now, and 6 months from now you can go back and see that you actually made progress. So that's good for self-care and assurance that, okay, I'm getting there, I'm doing something. And also finding bereavement group in your area will be fantastic, because you are becoming part of the club that you don't really want to be part of, but you are. And those people understand exactly what you're going through. And they will understand you better than your family member, than your sometimes close friend who didn't went through that. And like in our parish, they are being very careful to see that there's a group where you only, for people who lost their spouses or their children or somebody else that was very dear to them, because there will be different understanding for a daughter who lost a father, and different feeling for her mother who lost her husband. Completely different love, completely different feeling, different process of grieving, which cannot be exactly shared between a mother and a daughter. It's not. I don't see that happening, because
Yeah.
I saw in a family a daughter could not understand why her mother is grieving when the father, she didn't remember the father the way mother remembered him, because, well, she was with him years, decades before this girl came, was there. So it's different love, different relationships. So find a group. So this way you will know that's what you're feeling, what you're going through. It's normal. That's the way you're supposed to feel, and what you are feeling, it's a valid feeling. There's nothing to ashamed of, and finding someone who understands, it's a big part of actually recovering.
Yeah.
So
Excellent. I mean, yeah, that's. I mean, you're right. Even if, say you lose a father, or a husband, the love for that person is going to be different. But also, from father to father, from father to daughter, the relationship could be different in a different family, so they handle it in a different way too. So you really can't put numbers on it. You can't figure out how people are going to deal with it. I mean, there might be unresolved issues that people will probably
everyone have them.
Yeah, everybody's got those, right?
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're literally were holding their hand and then having the conversation as they were, you're gonna have an unresolved conversation. But yeah, that's rough. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, again, I just wanted to. Oh, so speaking of friends, Sandy says hi there. She one or two people come in and say content. She's saying Sandy's a good friend of mine. It should definitely introduce you, Agnes. So, ladies and gents, this has been an amazing show about grief today. And we actually, I was telling Erin on the phone that we don't do enough death episodes, and probably for good reason. but the truth is, this was fascinating today, and I'm very happy that we were able to get down to exactly what it is that you do, but then also to share with everybody your blog, and how much I enjoyed reading of some of the articles that are the last 3 or 4 are the ones that I read, and I was like, yeah, these are great analogies. And
Erin is wonderful. I mean, I'm amazed with choice of words and how she puts everything together.
Yeah.
It's you just want to hold on to it, and you read it with like you are thirsty for a cup of water. You cannot put that cup down. You're reading it, and it goes straight to your heart.
It was very moving.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Oh no, we are more than happy to talk. And so there's Erin's blog on the screen, guys. It's been on the screen for most of the time. It's Erin Delfino. It's beingagriefful.substack.com. As a guy who works in online marketing, I'm surprised you're using Substack. I thought you would use something like WordPress or whatever, but maybe this does something that I don't know about, and I'm gonna go do some research. Okay, I don't know. Ladies and gents, if you are looking for tax, you need some tax resolution. If you have some issues, you need to get those fixed. Agnes is where you want to go for that. So the New York NYTaxResolutions.com. That's her website. But you can also go to lovedeathandtaxes.com. That'll take you to this podcast and all the other things that are going on in it. If you want to send us some information about what is happening, or we would like to suggest some topics, you can send that to mailbag@lovedeathandtaxes.com. I want to say thank you so very much for our guest, Erin Delfino. And even though I'm gonna miss out on all the pastry now, but it's okay. It's fine. It's okay. It's all right. We'll figure it out. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you that there's going to be a special show that is showing up next week, Wednesday, and then we'll talk about it on Friday, because we went to Pawats Jellyhoof last month, and it was an amazing experience. And Agnes and I shot a show from there, and I want to get that to you guys so you can take a look and see what Pawats Jellyhoof in Poland is about. I still have some of the look. I was stuck in Denmark for a little while, and so I have these.
Yeah, we have to talk about that.
Yeah, 23 hours
here
in Copenhagen. Yeah, it's crazy. So we're gonna talk about that. Yeah, and I met someone in the airport.
I know, that's what I'm saying. That we need to talk about it. You know.
Did I say that out loud? Oh no.
David and I were like, okay, we need to talk to him about that.
I just skipped over it. I got the digits, but when am I going to go back to Copenhagen? I mean, is that going to happen on a regular basis?
I'll give you a point. Don't worry.
Very well. So again, ladies and gents, check out Erin's blog over at beinggriefful.substack.com, and I guess we'll see you guys next week. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. You're very, very welcome.